Hello, Scullies. Today we are going to be talking about Slenderman. Now, we're going to first be talking about Slenderman's creature type, and then we're going to also talk about Slender Sickness and a few other things, along with summoning Slenderman. Now, first I want to say, I'm sorry that this video took so long. You wouldn't believe how hard this has been for me to actually try to talk about, because I sometimes get choked up, and if I get choked up in the video, I'm sorry. Because talking about Slender is a little bit of a personal thing to me, because I know a being, and we've known each other for quite a while, and I've astral traveled back and forth to where he is specifically, and we're friends. And they just happen to call him Slenderman, though that's not his actual name. Now, before I sound even crazier than I already am, let's start with who and what Slenderman originally actually is. Now, the actual creature type that Slenderman is comes from an ancient creature type that is discussed in a lot of different types of folklore. There are many different names for what Slenderman actually is. Now, one of the main ones that I have gone to know over the years is that Slenderman is a type of being from a race of beings that actually are known to blend into trees. These beings are known to be faceless. Some have some type of facial features like mouths or eyes, but usually they're faceless. And completely genderless, by the way. The actual anatomy of that creature type is very confusing. Now, this creature type has been known in the magical world for quite some time. And it is not an uncommon creature to come across. You can actually see them dwelling into the forest, some of them, and there are other types of creatures within different types of bloodlines of this creature, more complication, as you can see, that dwell within specific types of forest areas, like the ones that would be in this area would be more deeper into the forest, away from civilization, and wouldn't really want to physically be seen. They would be more into the spiritual realm than actually being in the physical realm. However, some in swamps or places that aren't inhabited as much, like the rainforest and things like that, are more out in the open physically, because they're usually not caught by people, usually. However, this actual creature type is known mainly to be in the spiritual realm and not in the physical realm. They can physically manifest and go in between realms, but they're usually not known to go into the physical realm. Now let's discuss Slender Sickness. Now, I've discussed this on my quoted account before, and this was a topic at one point in time, but Slender Sickness, people claim that they'll bleed, that they'll throw up, that they'll pass out, they'll hear ringing. However, when doing magic and going in between realms, it's actually common for a being of a higher energy to literally overcome a person with a lower energy. If your energy is lower than the other being's energy, you can feel dizzy, you can get sick, and it can physically harm your body, depending on how high the energy is and what the exact energy is that this being produces, and whether they're fully physically manifesting or if they're going to stay in the spiritual realm or not. It all depends on that. Now, ringing can be heard when a being is going from one dimension into another. It is because they are literally passing in between the veil, and this can cause some type of ringing or some type of other noise. Sometimes walls will creak, or the area around them will seem to move in an odd way, or it'll be distorted. Now, saying that, Slender Sickness, people claim when they see Slenderman that they feel dizzy. The actual being that I got to know, who I actually refer to as Robert, has a very high frequency and a high energy. And I have to make sure to raise my energy to match his so that I don't pass out when he tries to physically manifest. Now, saying this, any being can have a higher energy than yours. And when you are practicing magic, it is important to remember how to raise and lower energy. So you have to be able to balance that out. With any type of being of any kind, whether it is a god, a goddess, a demon, an angel, any kind of being that is either being summoned, called upon, of any kind. Now talking about summoning, let's talk about summoning Slenderman. I know how to summon my friend, Robert. I'm not going to tell you how to do that. He would be so pissed with me. But summoning Slenderman is actually a lot more difficult than you think. One, with any type of summoning, you have to know the full being's name, usually. You have to have an absolute intent when doing it. And just a little bit of a mistake can mess up the summoning spell completely. Either it won't work, or bad things are going to happen. Now, if you want to try summoning spells and summoning other beings, that's fine, but be very careful when you do, because these beings do have things in their own world to do, just like we do. And what we consider important in this world, there are things in their world that they consider important, whether they're in the spiritual realm, in a completely different realm, or in this realm. Like, here, I'll give you an example. If you were calling your friend in the middle of their work, what would they say? No, I got to do the work. You wouldn't just keep pressuring them to keep coming and towards you, and because you wouldn't keep pressuring them to keep going. You would let them do their work. Now, summoning a being in magic is also very dangerous. I wouldn't suggest anyone under the age of 18 who hasn't practiced magic at all to try to summon a being like Slenderman or any other being that's similar to a creepypasta. Another thing I want to say is summoning creepypasta. Well, technically, creepypastas are horror stories. Now, the actual beings that look similar to them may look similar to them, but they aren't creepypastas. If you ever actually manage to summon an actual creepypasta that's from the original story, I would be absolutely terrified, because I know for every point, there's a dimension. Every point to maybe 8 points, there's a dimension. And there is a, please don't do that. And there, I'm sorry about that. You made me lose my train of thought. Did you really have to just do that? Okay, anyways, what was I saying before? What was I saying before? Anyways, anything is possible. What has been created does exist in some way, shape, or form. Please stop doing that. I'm sorry. If I didn't seem crazy before, I'm crazy now. Anyways, it is possible to do it, but I would highly recommend not to summon any being from an actual creepypasta horror story. They're meant to be just stories, and are not meant to be brought into this physical plane. You can actually not only get yourself killed, but other people. Remember, when you practice magic, the magic that you do does not only affect yourself, it affects other people, your friends, your family, and everything else. So when practicing magic, when summoning beings, be absolutely careful when you do it, and know what you're doing. Now, that's the end of this video for now, because if I keep doing the video, he's going to keep fucking poking me. So, I'll see you Scullies later. Bye, Scullies!